Assalamu alaikum and welcome dear listeners to another exciting episode of Voices of Vicissitude. I'm your host Mohammed Tabish and I'm a second year medical student. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest for today, Dr. Saleem Islam. So Dr. Saleem is the chair of the Department of Surgery here at Aga Khan University. He completed his MBBS from the Aga Khan University in 1992. He then completed his general surgery training from the University of Massachusetts in 2001 and pediatric surgery from the University of Michigan in 2003. He then went on to complete his MPH from the University of Massachusetts in 2006. Dr. Saleem then went on to work as the pediatric surgeon in the University of Florida in 2007 and later became the division chief of pediatric surgery in 2015. In 2022, he returned back to Pakistan to join us as the chair of the Department of Surgery at Aga Khan University. Welcome, Dr. Saleem.
Thank you.
So we'll talk about your role as the chief in more detail as we go ahead. But can you start us off as early as you would like to? So can you tell us about your childhood, where you grew up, how your childhood was for you?
So I had a very varied childhood, I guess, if you could say. My father was a travel agent, and he was living in New York at the time. So I was born in New York. And then we lived in North America, mostly in Toronto, in Canada, until I was about 10. So तकरीबन 10 साल की उम्र में हम लोग वापस my dad just said कि बस बहुत हो गया North America की ज़िंदगी, and he wanted to move back to Pakistan and to Karachi. So in 1977 we moved back to Karachi when I was around 10 years of age. And then वहाँ से I did my schooling, जो बकिया schooling थी वो Habib Public School. And then I went to DJ Science College. I did not do my A-levels. Habib se O-levels kiye the. And then once graduated from there, applied to AKU, got into Dow, जहाँ पे उस माने में 7 साल या 8 साल लग जाते थे. And I also got into Army Medical College. So I actually physically went to Army Medical College, spent 18 days, 10 hours and 47 minutes there, every minute of which was accounted for. And उसके बाद वो AKU में उन्होंने दाखिले का finally बता दिया कि हो गया आपका. So then Army Medical was actually gracious enough to let myself and 3 other boys there leave and come to AKU. So उसके बाद started in AKU in 1987. And then, like you mentioned, graduated in the class of 1992. We were the first class, third class, I should say, of 100. And we were the class that helped to complete AKU ke 5 saal. So what that means is you had a final year, class of 88, and then you had a first year, class of 92. Usse pehle, there were sirf 4 classes, 3 classes, 2 classes. So we were the one that completed के campus पे एक साथ आपके 5 classes थे. So that's I guess a first and a last that we'll always have with us. I met my wife there as well. My wife's my medical school classmate. She's an infectious disease doctor, adult infectious diseases, and then from AKU then. I was very lucky कि जब हम लोग US गए training के लिए तो managed to match into a general surgery program, and then like you said things went forward.
So you mentioned that you came to Pakistan at the age of 10. How was that as an experience from you, spending 10 years in the US and then coming to Pakistan and starting a new life?
So it was North America. It was 3 years in New York and 7 in Toronto. And देखिए expectations के ऊपर सब चीज़ें depend करती हैं. So my parents, and especially my father, was always a very proud Pakistani and a strong proponent of raising the country's more kind of image and keeping that. उनके साथ या उनके सामने कोई पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ बात करके तो देखते unnecessarily उनसे लड़ाई शुरू हो जाती थी उनकी. And so that was the mentality that we were brought up with. So we were kind of, myself and my sister, we were kind of patriotic before we even came to Pakistan. तो जब उस मेंटालिटी के साथ आप आते हैं तो चाहे जो भी आपको मुश्किलात सामने आती हैं आप बर्दाश्त कर लेते हैं. And for perspective, for those of you who were not alive in 1977, which is pretty much every single one in this room, that was the year when Pakistan had its general elections under Bhutto, जिसके फ़ौरन बाद जुलाई के अंदर मार्शल लॉ लग गया था because Bhutto in the March elections declared victory, and you can pick up a history book and see what happened. It wasn't good, and so there was a tumultuous time. और उस वक्त हम नॉर्थ नाज़िमाबाद नंबर 4 में रहते थे, and you know, going from there to Habib School in the Garmi, very different from Toronto, Canada. And so, but again, it's all about perspective and about what you feel. It was fine. उर्दू नहीं आती थी, उस वक्त काफ़ी मजाक उड़ाया जाता था, but उर्दू भी सीख गए, दोस्ती भी बन गई. And now Habib School के जो लोग हैं वो they are some of my closest and oldest and best friends.
So how were you as a child in school? What were your hobbies? Were you mischievous? Were you shy?
I've always kind of been a bit of an introvert when I look back and when I see now even. So, you know, I kept to myself for the most part, but then when you get to know people, you get to kind of be good with them. Habib School was a school जहाँ पे sports पे काफ़ी तवज्जो दी जाती थी, and वहाँ पे सुबह से 4 बजे तक होता था, या 5 बजे तक स्कूल जाती थी. And sports की में वहाँ पे hockey was very famous at that point. You guys probably have no idea of the hockey players who I'm going to name right now, like Hassan Sardar, Kalimullah, Safdar Abbas. They all came from Habib School, and so we had a very strong and proud tradition of really good hockey. So hockey खेलते थे, and then cricket भी खेलने का बहुत शौक था, and so I really enjoyed, and to this day still enjoy playing cricket. School में I was probably, by हमारा O levels का class was about 24 people. I used to come 4th, 5th के करीब या 6th. So I was in the top 10, but that's top 10 out of 26, so it's not saying much. And आप ये सीखते हैं कि you know, it doesn't really matter where you are. हर एक का एक वक्त आता है when you find your groove, and that could be in high school, it could be in college, it could be in medical school, it could be in the 3rd, 4th, 5th year of medical school, or it could be in residency. So one shouldn't worry about that. One picks up and all that. So
you completed your O levels from Habib, then you went on to DJ Sciences. What made you decide medicine as a field?
It's a funny question because we had to make that decision in school.
Yeah.
क्योंकि Habib School में O levels में हमारे 8 subject होते थे. The only subject of choice was biology. You could take it or leave it. तो मैंने कहा मैं ख्याल में डॉक्टर बन जाते हैं, तो मैंने कहा मैं बायोलॉजी लूँगा. तो बायोलॉजी के टीचर कहते हैं अरे यार तुम बायोलॉजी क्यों ले रहे हो यार, तुम छोड़ दो ना. He clearly didn't like me very much, or I was really not very good. And मैंने कहा सिर्फ डॉक्टर बनना है. अच्छा, I guess फिर तो लेना ही पड़ेगा आपको. So reluctantly he took me in, but then that was the decision. So that's basically 10th class, and उसके बाद then that's the decision that you're going to go into medicine. तो वो pre-medicine in DJ, और उसके बाद medical school. And you know, I asked this question from all the students जब वो rotate करते हैं मेरे साथ, the 3rd year में भी और final year में जब वो surgery पे आते हैं. I asked this question: what would you do if you could turn the clock back 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how it is? Would you choose to be a medical student at this point? And you'd be surprised, I would say about 10 to 20% of the classes say they wouldn't. If I asked all 4 of you students who are in front of me right now, you may not admit to it, but 1 or 2 of you may say, yeah, if I had a choice, I probably wouldn't have chosen medical school. So for me, that wasn't the case. I think I am very thankful to God for all the opportunities that I've had. And it is indeed his blessing that I am where I am.
So you mentioned that you got into Dow, you mentioned that you got into AMC. Why did you pick AQ at the end?
So, not only did I get into Army Medical, बल्कि वहाँ गया था मैं और यूनिफॉर्म पहनने के दूसरे दिन छोड़ के आ गया, which is rare. Usually आप जब यूनिफॉर्म आपको पकड़ा देते हैं उसके बाद छोड़ते नहीं हैं आपको. But you know, I think it's again, it's how the path that is maybe destined for you or that you are kind of made to choose. So जब वहाँ चला गया था और जब 15 दिन 20 दिन के करीब गुजर गए थे, 18 दिन, I was pretty sure I was going to stay there. And then जब वो telegram आया था from my father saying that Aga Khan में हो गया, you should come back. So it was actually my father who said that he would do it. क्योंकि उस वक्त Aga Khan की fees, now it's probably a tenth of what you guys pay at this point, but it's still a lot in 1987. And so that decision was my parents. I guess जब मैं चला गया था तो उसके बाद उनको एहसास हुआ, he is not such a bad guy. Maybe we'd like him back here in Karachi. So that was them reaching out and saying कि वापस आ जाए. And to be honest, in retrospect, in forespect, no matter any spec that you use, I was very lucky कि वो decision लिया गया. I think उस वक्त भी और इस वक्त, I think it's pretty clear that AKU में जो आपको foundation मिलता है और जो opportunities मिलती हैं वो पाकिस्तान में नहीं मिलती हैं कहीं. At that point, you have to understand, being the 5th class, AKU का नाम नहीं था, AKU का graduate ही नहीं था कोई, right? We had just had the first batch getting into their final year at that time. So it was a bit of a gamble. It was a bit of a risk, but I'm very fortunate and very glad that we were able to take it.
So if you had to give one advice to a Dr. Saleem who's in DJ right now, what would you give?
In DJ?
In DJ or any college, someone who aspires to be like you.
You know, I know it might be surprising to hear, but by and large, I would say, don't screw it up, because what happened going forward from where you are right now was pretty good. So just keep a low profile, just let it go. And I would say that actually just keep doing what you're doing. देखिए, ज़िंदगी में हमेशा there will be some regrets. As a surgeon, you will realize that there are patients and issues that you have that you can never get back. It's actually a saying by a famous surgeon, French surgeon by the name of Leriche. आप पढ़ेंगे या शायद आपने तो पढ़ लिया होगा जो आप 4th year में जो हैं आप, कि Leriche syndrome होती है, which is a vascular syndrome, aortoiliac occlusion. So it's the same Leriche, who said that every surgeon carries with himself, उस वक्त सब surgeons मर्द होते थे, तो himself a graveyard, a personal graveyard. A graveyard of patients who you couldn't help, patients who you harmed while trying to help, and patients who died. And each surgeon visits that graveyard from time to time. And you do that. And so वो regrets जो हैं, काश मैंने वो किया होता, काश मैंने वो टांका इधर लगाया होता, काश मैंने ये decision लिया होता. Those are the things that I would say, if you could avoid them, avoid them. But on the flip side, it's those experiences which make you who you are. And so you can choose to not have those defining experiences in your life which hurt you. Mistakes, errors, injuries, right? Because you say that they're bad. But they are in fact what define you. Because it's not that you won't make a mistake in your life. It's not that you're never going to ever fall in your life. It's what happens after you make that mistake, after you fall, that defines who you are and what you truly can do. There's a couple of really nice books that I would recommend, and they're both authored by Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T. One of them is The Coddling of the American Mind. The other one is just came out this year called The Anxious Generation. And one of the themes in those books is when we try to overprotect our loved ones, parents do that to kids, siblings do that to their siblings, you're actually harming them. Let them fail. Let them experience a mistake. Let them brood about that mistake for a while. It truly is what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
That's really true, sir, and that's something that all of us face on the daily. We face tiny failures every single day, and it's how we get back up.
And you'll face big failures too.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're okay, as long as you haven't hurt somebody to the point of killing them, you're okay.
So you started your med school at AQ in 87, you graduated in 92. How was your time in AQ? What was your favorite memory here? Of course, you met your wife here, so I'm sure you have many great memories from this med school. But if you had to name one, what would be your favorite memory from Aga Khan?
It's tough to pick a single one. I think again, हम उस ज़माने में भी जब आते थे तो reasonably frequently we would look around and say, I am so thankful that I got this opportunity. और उस ज़माने में तो there was the hospital and essentially the courtyard, which you guys call the quad. Yeah, we never called it the quad, by the way, then. And we were allowed to play cricket there too, just so you know. And वो जो QTL अब हो गया है, that used to be the audio-visual lab. हालांकि उसमें audio-visual कुछ नहीं था उसमें. पता नहीं किसी के लिए audio और किसी के लिए visual होगा ज़रूर. And the library. So, by the way, other than that, there was hardly anything else. Cricket ground जो आपका ज़बरदस्त है, that was known as the Sahara Desert. उसके अंदर एक सीमेंट की पिच थी. But it was a remarkable time for us. And I have to say, we were very immature. I'm now used to US medical students, since 30 साल तक तो उन्हीं के साथ पाला पड़ा है. They come after undergrad, right? So they have 4 years under their belt. There's a lot of maturity and thought ability added to their repertoire. And I was one of the, immature ones as well. So ऐसे कुछ किए हमने हरकतें जो कि if I could take back, I wish I could. But again, they're defining things. But overall, I think I am very thankful for the teachers that we had. We had some amazing and outstanding teachers in every basic science you can imagine. I'm a pediatric surgeon, and that's not a coincidence. The chair of surgery at that time was Farhat Moazzam, जिसे FM कहते थे हम. So Farhat Moazzam trained at the University of Florida. She was in fact the only pediatric surgeon to have trained at the University of Florida until I got back to the University of Florida and started a formal training program in 2007. We started an ACJME approved fellowship. Usse pehle thi nahi. But she trained there in an unapproved fellowship, was there as faculty for about 4 years, and then came here. And when I rotated on pediatric surgery, I just completely fell in love with it. And so, our teachers, both in the basic and clinical sciences, were amazing. They really, truly took an interest in us, and you could tell it was palpable. So I think those, and then the friends that we made, abhi tak, you're very close to those friends. Those are again very defining experiences. And then how we stuck together throughout all those times. So it was a wonderful 5 years.
So one thing that med students face quite often is, especially when you're in your later years of med school, there's a pressure on you to decide what you want to do, and a lot of people actually struggling with finding their true passion. So when did you decide that, yeah, pediatric surgery is what I want to do, like dead sure?
So I guess I was one of the lucky ones. In my 3rd year is when we rotated on pediatric surgery. So pediatric surgery ki rotation hoti thi. And when I rotated on that and I took care of a few kids, I was like, it just hit me. So I told you, right, that you hit your groove sometime in your life. And if that hasn't happened to you yet, don't fret. It will. You know, for me, it was my second year. I really, truly just, everything just clicked. And I loved reading and understanding what I was doing. Third year, mein jab rotate kiya tha pediatric surgery ke upar, then I just completely fell in love with it. And uske baad se, I simply didn't look back. Now, when you say students are confused, sometimes they're confused because they really don't think they've found a passion. Some of them are confused because you've rotated through everything and you're like, oh crap, I love everything. And you conflate enjoying a rotation and having a good time on that rotation with, I guess I have to do this now because I really am enjoying it. So I've always told the students that enjoying a rotation does not mean you have to choose that as a career. It means the rotation is done properly. If a rotation is structured properly, if it's done properly, every student should really enjoy it. Why? Because you're learning something novel. And that's why you're here in medical school. Dusri baat ye hai ki as AKU graduates, you need to understand that as opposed to a US graduate, aap keh rahe hain, aapke upar pressures hai? Let's increase those pressures and ratchet it up dramatically. How? Making your, ek to aapko 4 saal hai sirf aapke medical school ke. Your 4th year is essentially a redundant year because you've already decided what you want to do, or you better have decided, because you have set up your electives in the first 2 months of your 4th year. You're setting up your rotations in your 2nd year. And when you set up your rotations, you're doing that because you said, yeah, ये सर्जरी मेरे बस की बात नहीं है, इसको आखिर में डालो, जब मेरा सब कुछ खत्म हो चुका होगा, जब मुझे परवाह नहीं होगी ना, तो वो उसमें डालो. And then midway through your 3rd year, when you haven't even done your half of your rotations, you're brought in front of the associate dean and you have to decide and tell your associate dean what you want to do. So you think you have pressure? That's pressure. Most US medical students never rotate on ortho, urology, ENT, ophthalmology, fill in the blanks, anesthesia, all these specialties. They never rotate in them. They may have been the best otolaryngologist that the world would have ever seen. I guess we'll never know because they never rotated on it and they never got the choice. आपको तो ये advantage है कि आप हर चीज पे rotate करते हैं. So at the end of your 5th year, and you're not pushed to make a decision by the end of your 5th year, by the way, at the end of your 5th year, you have a pretty good idea, at least of what you don't want to do. And so you've narrowed it down pretty well. And therefore, your गलत decision, lena, samajh le, is a little bit less because of that. So in fact, don't worry about that. Don't worry about not finding that, and find a good mentor or a coach who can help you decide. In your gut, you've already decided what you want to do. You just need someone to show you the way that you've decided. Not push you in a direction which you haven't decided, but show you the way that you've actually decided by just asking a few questions.
That's excellent. So you matched into the University of Massachusetts for GS. How was the match experience for you? What were some problems you faced? Or what tips would you give to anyone who's applying for the match this year?
So the match in the early 1990s is hugely different from the match that it exists now. ERAS as such nahi hota tha. There was the NRMP, the National Resident Matching Program. And so there was no electronic things. Email had not come out yet, surprisingly enough. Cell phones weren't developed until my 3rd or 4th year of residency. So that. I had sent in 120 applications. Applications ke paise nahi the as such, aap bas mail karte the unko. And they were all hand kind of written, photocopied, 120 of them. And then I had 113 negative letters and 7 interviews. Of those 7 interviews, they were all for prelim spots. And then जब वो 7 interviews दिए थे तो उनमें से I was very lucky कि 3 जगहों ने interview के बाद उसको categorical में convert कर दिया था. And they were nice enough to come and ask me, can we rank you as a categorical? Do I have to pay you money? Because I will. And नहीं, तो उन्होंने switch कर लिया. And then I was also again very fortunate and God was super kind कि उन तीनों में से एक में मैं match भी हो गया. That was the 1993 match, 1993-94. So I started my residency in 1994. It was a great program. I really enjoyed myself, made a lot of great friends there. We lived in Massachusetts for 7 years because I took 2 years for research between my second and third year. And उन्होंने मुझे essentially तलाक दे दिया था almost, at least उन 2 सालों के लिए, या आग कर दिया था, whatever you want to call it. They'd stopped paying me salary and they're like, look, आप Mass General जा रहे हैं, तो अगर हम आपको पैसे देंगे Mass General जाने के लिए, तो हम अपने research program कैसे बनाएंगे? And that made perfect sense to me. मैंने कहा मुझे सर आप पैसे ना दें, आप मुझे बस ये लिख दें कि जब मैं ख़त्म करूँगा तो आप मुझे ले लेंगे. उन्होंने कहा of course आपको लेंगे, आप हमारे रेजिडेंसी प्रोग्राम में हैं, तो आप वापस आएंगे तो आप सब ले लेंगे, ठीक है. So I went to Mass General and spent 2 years there and did research. I had known I wanted to do pediatric surgery and I knew I had to do research. So I killed a lot of rats for about 2 years and did research on lung development and congenital diaphragmatic hernia for the most part. And so that was a great 2 years as well. Made a lot of good friends and again, very formative experiences in that time. So yeah, it was a great time.
So you mentioned that Dr. Farhat had a profound impact on you and your choice for pediatric surgery when you were in Pakistan. What was one attending or one fellow colleague when you were doing your residency who had a similar impact or something that really had a profound impact on you during your residency?
So during general surgery residency, it's tough to know. You know, our program director, I'm super indebted to him that somehow he was able to see through the foreign medical graduate kind of label and pick me as or rank me high enough that I matched. And he was a wonderful trauma surgeon and a great mentor. There were so many, and it all depended on your year. Because हर साल में आपको एक कोई नई चीज़ आप सीखते हैं, नया तरीका सीखते हैं, नया आपको way of living, if you will, आप सीखते हैं. So in your chief year, I really got to work a lot with our surgical oncologists and the minimally invasive surgery folks, and I was really taken with them and learning how to operate at such a high level with minimally invasive techniques. And fourth year or third year mein, it was working with some of the vascular surgeons, again learning techniques and operative skills usme. But most of all, in the US especially, the programs were hard but fair. And so you learned that fairness is and honesty is and integrity are really valued. अगर आप सच बोलें, तो you'll be okay. You can make a mistake, but you just have to be honest and own up to it.
So you were the division chief of pediatric surgery from 2015 to 2022. How was that as an experience for you, and what did you learn from that benefited you when you came to Pakistan here as a chair of surgery?
Yeah, so I had been at University of Florida since 2006-2007. Usse pehle I was at the University of Mississippi, which was my first academic job for 3 years. At Florida, I was the program. I helped create the program, the training program in pediatric surgery, our fellowship, and then I became the program director for 9 years. So there was some leadership experience there. In 2015, the division chief had decided to step down, and they were going to do a national search. And then, whatever reason, they decided to offer me the position, and so I took it at that point. And so you learn a lot about how to manage people, how to, as a division chief, as any kind of leadership position in that way, it has to be not about you. I think if I have to give you 4 or 5 words as to how to sum it up, just remember, it's not about you. It has to be about the other people. So it was about my faculty. I recruited 2, we already had 2, so there was 5 faculty. We hired more nurse practitioners. We had 4 or 5 nurse practitioners. We had admin staff, so it was a total of about 12 or 15 people underneath me. And so if they didn't succeed, I failed. So it was about them more than it was about me. And it was about learning how I can best help them achieve their goals. And therefore, it was more about learning what their goals were. So it meant actually talking to them and listening to what they had to say. And so that 7-year leadership experience or 8-year leadership experience was very important, because it helped कि उसका natural step उसके बाद यही है कि you're a chair of a department, you're working with a larger group, and you're able to help more people in achieving their goals. So I think the most important lesson is understand what other people's goals are and then work to help them achieve their goals. It's not about you.
So can I get some information as to why you decided to come back to Pakistan?
तो ये आप पूछ रहे हैं आप वापस क्यों आए? So when we came back after 30 years in the US, शुरू में लोग कहते थे आपके ऊपर कोई बड़ा lawsuit हुआ होगा? नहीं, actually, nah. I still have a faculty appointment at Florida. अच्छा. So the question again was, why did you come? आप क्यों आए? And then shortly after I got here, you guys have been in Pakistan, of course, so you know, the economic and other situation palpably worsened. The dollar parity, the economy, a whole host of other political and other issues. So the question became more and more strident. आप क्यों आए हैं became आप क्यों आए हैं, which essentially translated to आपको किस rabid dog ने काटा था ताकि हम उस कुत्ते से ज़रा दूर ही रहें तो बेहतर है. The answer is that is very complex, and it's never just one thing. For me and for my wife, it was, I think it was destiny calling us. And the reason I say that is that it was, अगर ये 2 साल पहले ऑफर आती या 2 साल बाद आती, probably would not have been the right time. I would not have even entertained it. So COVID had just finished. We were empty nesters, which in the US means मेरे 3 बच्चे, मेरे और मेरी wife के, 3 girls. My youngest girl is 22, just finished her college this year. So at that point, 2 3 years ago, when the offer came, they had all left the house. So we were empty nesters. घर में सिर्फ मैं, मेरी बीवी, and my mom. So the kids had flown the coop. One was living in New York, one was in Georgia, the other was still in Florida, in Gainesville, but उसकी शादी हो चुकी थी, and she was a psych resident, still is a psychiatry resident. And so that's an inflection point in your life. COVID के बाद, the world, by and large, professionals around the world, had begun thinking, what is it that I really want out of life? What am I doing? For me, it was, I had done 7 years as division chief. I was a full professor at the University of Florida for that same amount of time. I had no desire to be a chair in the US because uske saath, there were different pressures and different things. And so I was approached a few times, and I turned them down at the email level. And then a few children's hospitals in the US had come calling and said, hey, we want you to consider kind of coming and leading the program here. And there were programs in Providence, Rhode Island, Seattle, Delaware, and in Michigan. And so I was like, yeah, I think the next step in my life, logically, is to leave Gainesville. अब बच्चे पढ़ लिख के निकल गए हैं, 16 साल हो गए यहाँ पे. You know, look at something new. And working at a full-fledged children's hospital would be great. I love kids, so do that hospital. It's great. It's just be good to work in a place where everybody just takes care of kids. And usi mein, one of the graduates in the class of 1990, Hassan Alam, called me. He's a chair at Northwestern, chair of surgery at Northwestern. And he said, Saleem, you should really consider this. Like, are you serious? Like, yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm on the search committee and you should consider this. And initially I was like, yeah, sure, Hassan, theek hai. And then I thought about it, talked to my wife, and then, it said, we'll just keep it in that list. And then as things just progressed, it just made sense. And, I think, again, God provides these opportunities. एक दरवाज़ा जब बंद होता है, वो दूसरी खिड़की या एक और दरवाज़ा खुल जाता है. And for us, actually, ये दरवाज़ा चौट चपट खुल गया था हमारे लिए. And so, while financially it was probably a very unwise choice to make, finances aren't everything. And again, when we took stock of ourselves at that point, so it was okay. Again, बच्चे पढ़ लिख गए थे.
So, in your lectures, you often take a break where you discuss some history, some historical facts, and you're more often than not disappointed in how little history our generation knows. So can you tell us how you developed an interest in history, and can you tell us a bit on why it's important that all of us should learn a bit of history in our lives?
So the first thing is, why do I even do that, right? That's actually a learning technique. Human attention span, I don't think they counted for Gen Z, by the way, but human attention span is around 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minute mark, lecture mein. Even if it's an interactive one, the human brain starts shutting down and you start wandering and not being able to focus. So after 20 minutes, if you look at teaching techniques, one of the scientifically proven things is to stop at around 20 minutes, give a break, talk about something completely different, like give your mind a break, and then come back and do another 15, 20 minutes. So that was the reason I started doing it. And I developed these lectures in the US, actually. And so history is I've always been passionate about history, even as a child. And for me, military history, and specifically the history around World War II. And so that's always been a fascination for me. Why is history important? So if you forget about your history, the sad fact is that you tend to repeat the mistakes that history could have taught you. And if you don't believe that, look around the world right now. The lessons that World War II taught us, isolationism, extreme right-wing thinking, economic turmoil around the world leading to severe inequities among people in the same country. Going from the playbook of blaming certain people, certain races, certain religions. Those are very old playbooks. And the reason we're not seeing it in total is because we tend to forget what happened in the past. What happened in Nazi Germany is happening in the world today, as we speak, if we choose to open our eyes.
Yeah, I feel like that's true, and we tend to forget what we've done and we do it again, and then we do it again, and the cycle just keeps repeating.
It just keeps repeating itself.
So you've mentioned that you love playing cricket. I know that you're an avid watcher as well. Can I get some thoughts on the World Cup that just happened and how our team played in it?
देखिए, हर चीज़ की एक साइकिल होती है. And Pakistan's team, I was in the US at the time. I was visiting my family. जब हमारा US के साथ match था, and we lost that. It looked like Pakistan had just rolled out of bed and said, this is easy. The US had done their homework. It was very clear that they had plans for each Pakistani batsman and everything. The truth is कि इस वक्त आपकी team यही है. And I don't really get very emotional about Pakistan's performances anymore. And that I learned my lesson in 2010, a long time ago. It was Test cricket. That's the form of cricket I like. And उसके बाद से मैंने कहा, I'm not going to be emotionally invested with them. I'll always love Pakistan cricket. I have every single jersey that they have, even including this World Cup. But I'm not going to get emotionally invested. And so, if you take back and look, ये टीम जो है, यही टीम है आपकी. आप किसी को छोड़ के नहीं गए थे पाकिस्तान में, जो आपने कहा, ये देखो सिलेक्टर्स ने क्या किया है. आपके पास इस वक्त स्पिनर नहीं है अच्छा. नहीं, अब बाद में आ जाएगा, कोई ना कोई आ जाएगा. It's all right. आपकी बैटिंग is very bad. You traditionally have always had bad batting compared to India, but you're at a historical point right now. Then you have no middle order basically. All-rounder तो है नहीं आपके पास, और जो लेके गए थे, they didn't really work. And then your fast bowling is more on, unfortunately at this point, on paper rather than on consistent performance. But this is cyclic, right? 3-4-5 साल बाद, the same team will be doing better because you'll find good people. एक दो लोग आपको मिल जाएंगे. इंडिया की टीम इस वक्त बहुत अच्छी है. They've had retirements with Rohit, Kohli, Jadeja. They will lose another couple of people. ये जो Surya Kumar Yadav है, he's 33, 34, 30. Right? And so this is what happens. Australia lost a whole host of greats. Their team changed. So it's okay. The team that should have won the tournament did win the tournament. And Pakistan should just take stock, try not to repeat the lessons that history has taught them, and just kind of move forward.
So just to finish this podcast, I'm just going to ask you one last question. If you had to sum up your life so far in a couple of statements, what would they be?
I guess I would be someone, gratitude. If I was one word, it would be gratitude. Gratitude to the Almighty for simply allowing me to do what I'm doing right now. We often tend to forget, right? In the hustle bustle of life, in छोटी मोटी चीजें जो आपके साथ हो जाती हैं, आप कहती हैं यार ये क्या हो रहा है, ये कैसे क्यों हुआ मेरे साथ, and all of this, you tend to lose the gratitude part. But I am supremely thankful to God. I don't think I can thank Him enough. I get to practice pediatric surgery and I get paid for it. Can you believe it? And it's a wonderful thing. I have kids who I am so proud of. All three of my girls are just amazing. And they turned out to be amazing, and that's mostly due to my wife. I will give credit. I have an amazing life partner in my wife. My best friend and, my best ally, and we have spent such a great time together. So, and every stage of my life has been just better and better than the last one. So, if anything, I would say that just gratitude.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem, for doing this. This was really insightful. I hope you had a good time recording it. I'm sure the viewers will benefit from this. So, thank you so much.
Or not. We'll find out.